What's up everybody, I'm Caden Teneycke, and this is KN Explains New Year's Resolutions. You've probably heard the term resolutions, but do you know why we make them or how they even started? A New Year's resolution is a decision that people make at the new year that they plan to keep for the full year. People might decide to stop a bad habit, start a new habit, or accomplish a goal. Humans have celebrated the start of a new year for thousands of years. Historians and archaeologists have discovered evidence that the ancient Babylonians, people who lived over 4,000 years ago in an area that is now part of modern-day Iraq, celebrated their New Year in a festival called Aki-2. Other cultures have their own New Year's traditions that dates back to thousands of years. For example, the Lunar New Year has been celebrated for thousands of years and continues to be celebrated by East Asian people all over the world, including in China and Korea. Jewish people celebrate Rosh Hashanah in the fall. And in Iran and other parts of the world, Nowruz, sometimes known as the Persian New Year, is celebrated in the spring. While these different New Years start at different points in the year, what these celebrations have in common is the idea of leaving the bad behind in the old year and starting the new year with good intentions and good luck. For people in the Western world, like Canada, the ancient Romans have had a fairly big impact on our calendar and how the year is shaped. The calendar we use in Canada, and a lot of the world is based on, is the Julian calendar. Julius Caesar, the dictator of Rome, put it in place at 45 BC. January, the first month of the Julian calendar, is named after Roman god Janus. Janus was the god of doorways and entrances. He has two heads, one that is looking forwards and one that is looking backwards. When we make a New Year's resolutions, in many ways, we might be looking backwards to see what we can improve on from the past, while also looking forward to what we can achieve in the future. Kind of like Janus. According to Merriam-Webster, the earliest known printing of the phrase New Year's resolutions was in a Boston newspaper in 1813. In 1883, a British journal published an opinion piece about New Year's resolutions, saying that they pass away almost with the mists of the morning of which they are formed. Basically, they argued that resolutions are easily broken, so there's not much point in making them. Nearly 140 years later, and New Year's resolutions continue to be a topic of debate. Should you make them? And if you do, how do you avoid breaking them? 2022 is set to be another uncertain year. We are still in a global pandemic, so it might feel like a lot to add a resolution on top of that. But even with the challenges, I still wanted to know how kids could set goals for the new year, or at any point in the year, and still be successful at it. To better understand how to set goals and make new habits, I turned to several experts.
Hi, I'm Elliot Berkman. I'm a psychologist and I study goals.
Hi, my name is Kathy Archer. I'm a leadership development coach.
I'm Aaron Grouper and I study how the brain works.
What's even going on in the brain when we set a goal? Well, the parts of the brain that deal with our goals are actually different from the parts that control our day-to-day actions and where habits are formed. But many times these parts work together.
So in the beginning, you have a goal that you want to play a musical instrument, for instance. And so the goal-centered parts of the brain set that as a goal.
As we do the same thing day after day, the brain starts to form a habit, and you don't have to actually think as hard about the action you want to do. But that's also why it's so hard to quit doing something that is already a habit. The most popular resolutions for adults in multiple surveys over multiple years are fitness and health goals, including losing weight and quitting smoking. Now, while those are probably goals kids shouldn't be too worried about, we can learn from adults' failures too. Goals like quitting smoking, they're hard to keep, according to research, because it's a lot harder to stop doing something than it is to start a new habit.
Because the habit system just becomes on autopilot.
In more kid-friendly terms, that means it will be easier for most of us to start practicing the cello once a week than it will be for us to stop playing video games altogether. Okay, but first things first. Does it even make sense for kids or anyone to make a New Year's resolution? Well, here's what our experts think.
New Year's resolutions can be a little bit tricky because a lot of people set goals even if they don't really want to change.
We often set New Year's resolutions and then fall off the wagon really fast.
It's important to think about what you want your life to be like, and if there's certain things you want to improve on, to set that as goals. And so New Year's resolutions can be quite useful for helping us do that.
Sometimes people are trying to change things that they've wanted to change for a long time, but are sort of looking for a good start date, say, okay, January 1st is a good one.
Now, if you do decide to set a goal or resolutions for the next year, all 3 experts we spoke to agreed on a few strategies for success. Tip number 1, set realistic goals for yourself. That also means setting them because you want to, not because you feel like you need to, or you're feeling pressure from others. One way to set realistic goals is to follow the SMART method. Specific. What exactly do you want to accomplish? Measurable. How will you know when you meet your goal? Achievable. Can you meet the goal? Relevant. Is this goal worth the work? Do I have what I need to reach this goal right now? Time-based. How long will the goal take, and when will I work on it? When setting goals that are achievable, Kathy Archer recommends using what's called stretch goals. Those are goals that are a little bit out of your comfort zone, and might be a little bit of a challenge, but aren't so hard that you won't be able to do them.
So you want to stretch a little bit, like an elastic band, but not to the point you're going to snap.
Number 2, break down the big goal into smaller parts. All 3 experts agreed that breaking down your goals into smaller steps and goals will work best for most people. Instead of having one big goal like, I want to become a YouTuber, you will probably be more successful if you set smaller goals throughout the year that adds up to the bigger resolution. For example, to become a YouTuber, you might first want to start with deciding what kinds of topics you want to cover. So maybe your first goal is doing some research. Then you can add on more goals as the year goes on.
Set your goals early, start small, keep playing with them. And again, if you don't achieve them, that's okay. That's totally part of the process.
And that leads us on to tip number 3. Don't aim for perfection. When we set a realistic goal, that also means having fair expectations of ourselves. That means aiming for, say, 80% instead of 100. If we get discouraged by setbacks and a few missed targets, that could mean that we abandon the goal altogether.
It's about improvement, not perfection.
The good news, though, is kids and teens and even young adult brains are still developing. This means that in many ways, the kid's brain is better at learning new things than the adult brain. Every single person's brain and their own needs is different from everyone else's. That's why when we set goals, it's good to remember not to compare ourselves too closely to others. At the end of the day or the year, whether or not you make a New Year's resolution is up to you. Are you planning to make a New Year's resolutions for 2022? My goal this year is to have 1 million followers by the end of the year. No. Why? Is that not a realistic goal? That's it for Caden Explains. For CBC Kids News, I'm Caden Teneycke. A lot of research and fact-checking went into making this video. First off, I want to thank our experts, Kathy Archer, Aaron Gruber, and Elliot Berkman. We also spoke to Dwayne Meisner, who filled us in on Roman and ancient Babylonian history. Plus, we consulted sources like the Encyclopedia Britannica, Merriam-Webster.com, Angus Reid, YouGov, and the Pew Research Center.